The single most certain fact about your life is the one you spend the most energy not thinking about. Not that you might die, that you will. And the strange thing is, the moment it happens, your body does not simply switch off like a lamp. It begins a precise, predictable sequence of events, a kind of biological shutdown that unfolds in stages, on a schedule, almost like a machine following its final instructions. Forensic scientists know this sequence so well, they can read a body like a clock and tell you, often within an hour, exactly when a life ended. I want to walk you through that sequence, calmly and clearly, because understanding what happens after is one of the few things that can genuinely change how you lived before. I call this process the shutdown sequence. Let me start at the exact moment the heart stops, because that single event triggers everything that follows. For your entire life, your heart has been doing one quiet, relentless job, pushing blood to every cell, delivering oxygen, carrying away waste. The instant it stops, that delivery service ends everywhere at once, and your cells, trillions of them, do not die immediately. For a little while, they are still alive, still trying to function, suddenly cut off from supplies, like a city the moment the power grid fails. Everything that comes next is the slow, orderly consequence of that one cut. The first stage begins within minutes, and it is the most subtle. With the heart no longer pushing blood through the tiny vessels under your skin, the color drains away. The living flush we never even notice fades into a waxy paleness. Scientists call this pallor, and it is the body's first visible signal that the engine has gone quiet. At almost the same time, the second stage begins. And this one is a simple matter of physics. A living body works hard to hold itself at a precise warmth, around 37 degrees. The moment that effort stops, the body begins to do what any warm object does in a cooler room. It loses heat, slowly and steadily, drifting toward the temperature of the air around it. This cooling is so predictable that for a long time it was one of the main ways investigators estimated a time of death, reading the body like a thermometer running in reverse. The third stage is the one most people have heard of, and it is genuinely strange. Some hours after death, the muscles which you would expect to simply relax do the opposite, they lock. The body stiffens from the inside out, jaw and neck first, then spreading outward until it becomes rigid. This happens because muscles need a constant supply of energy just to stay loose. And once the body can no longer produce that energy, the fibers seize and hold. This stiffness builds, peaks somewhere around half a day after death, and then slowly releases again as the deeper changes begin. It is a temporary lock, a pause, the body holding one last fixed pose before the final stage takes over. And while the muscles are locking, a fourth thing is happening, quietly, driven by nothing more than gravity. The blood, no longer pumped anywhere, simply obeys the pull of the earth and sinks to the lowest parts of the body, pooling there and staining the skin a deep red, then a darker purple. To a trained eye, this single detail is one of the most honest witnesses there is. The pattern of where the blood settled and where it did not can quietly reveal the position a body rested in and for how long. The body, it turns out, keeps an extraordinarily accurate record of its own final hours, written in temperature, in stiffness, and in the silent movement of blood toward the ground. Then comes the final stage, the one we instinctively flinch from, and it is worth understanding precisely because it is so misunderstood. After a few days, the real transformation begins. And here is the part that surprises people. For most of this, no outside force is needed at all. It starts from within. Your own body is home to a vast invisible population. Trillions of bacteria that lived with you your whole life, helping you digest, helping you survive. While you were alive, your immune system kept them politely in their place. The moment that system goes offline, that arrangement ends. The very microbes that help sustain you begin, quietly and inevitably, to break you back down. This is the deepest truth of the sequence, and the strangest. The end is not an outside invader. It is the same biology that kept you alive, simply continuing its work without a manager. Life and its undoing are run by the same machinery. So step back and look at the whole sequence as one process. A heart stops. Color fades, warmth drains, muscles lock, blood settles, and finally the body is patiently returned, atom by atom, to the world it was borrowed from. It is methodical. It is universal. It has happened to every single human being who has ever lived, billions of them, and it will happen exactly like this to everyone you have ever known and to you. That is not said to frighten you. It is said because there is something on the other side of fully accepting it that most people never reach. Here is the turn, the part I actually need you to carry out of here. We treat death as the opposite of life, as its enemy. But the shutdown sequence shows something gentler and more honest. The same processes that end you are the ones that built and ran you. You are not separate from this cycle, standing outside it, dreading it. You are a brief, astonishing arrangement of borrowed material, lit up and aware for a short while and then returned. And the people who truly absorb that do not become morbid or afraid, they become awake. Because once you stop pretending the clock is not running, every ordinary thing changes weight. A normal afternoon, a boring conversation with someone you love, the completely unremarkable fact that right now your heart is still doing its quiet, relentless job. None of that is guaranteed, and none of it is permanent, and that is precisely what makes it priceless. Picture two people who are told the exact same truth that their time is finite and the sequence is certain. The first one hears it and pushes it away, files it under things to think about later, and goes back to sleepwalking, postponing the call, postponing the apology, postponing the life, certain there will always be more time. The second one hears the same words and feels something quietly click awake, not panic. Attention. She looks up from her phone at the person across the table. She makes the call. She stops waiting for a someday that was never promised. Same fact, same certainty. One of them let it put her to sleep, and one of them let it wake her up. So the next time you feel that flinch, that urge to look away from the one certainty none of us escapes, try, just for a moment, not to. Let it remind you that the heart beating in your chest right now is doing something extraordinary and temporary. You do not need to fear the shutdown sequence to respect it. You only need to let the certainty of the ending sharpen the enormous, easily wasted gift of the part you are living right now. The clock was always running. The only real question is whether knowing that sends you back to sleep or finally wakes you up. And if thinking about any of this stirs up real fear or grief that feels too heavy to sit with alone, that is completely human, and you do not have to carry it by yourself. Talk to someone you trust or a good therapist. Facing the ending is not morbid. Done gently, it is one of the most life giving things a person can do.